Their
Radio. Their radio.
Today on the show, we have oil painter Nia Simone. We spoke with her about why she decided to pursue painting, the musical inspirations behind many of her art pieces, and the intersection between art and mental health. Her piece, Trying to Find a Peace of Mind, is currently on display at Stay Gallery in Downey. And her piece, The Pinata, which we spoke about in this episode, is currently a part of the Irrepressible Soul show at Urban Arts Space in Columbus, Ohio. Congrats to Nia for the display of those two amazing pieces. Thank you, Nia, for today's musical selection and for stopping by. You can find her work on Instagram at Art by Nia Simone. The link to her work will be put in this episode description. Thank you.
My name's Nia Simone. I'm a oil painter. My main focus is oil paint right now, but I'm also learning how to like paint on clothes and stuff like that. I mainly focus on making pictures in the surrealistic style. So like focusing on making everything look realistic, but putting them in very unrealistic situations. And I focus on basically telling the stories of Black people, but from like a mental and emotional capacity.
I do want to start off with your earliest memories with art. So I do want to ask you, what is one of the earliest memories that you have creating art or being with art?
I can say that because I grew up very like Christian and religious, my mom would always take me to like church prayer meetings and stuff like that. When I was younger, she always thought that I would draw monsters. Like I was about like 4, 5, 6, and it turned out like a lady at church was like, "No, these are like biblical angels." So like that's like my earliest memory of like drawing, and that's part of why I do surrealistic work.
So you used to draw this while being in like a religious setting, or was this like outside of that at home?
Both, like, like because I was so young and like usually like prayer meetings and stuff, it was usually like older people. So for my mom to like keep me whatever satisfied, she always gave me like something to draw on.
And do you remember the moment that you knew you wanted to focus on art and painting?
Yeah, I had like moved out here on a whim because I was born in Compton, but I moved to Ohio and I grew up out there up until I was about 18. So I came out here on a whim. I was going through a breakup and I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna just go stay with my aunt for like a couple of months for the summer. And I did like a couple of flea markets and stuff. And she came up with the idea of like, like you're studying to do STEM. Why don't you study to do something that you're like really passionate about? And, she kind of enforced me, or she kind of like inspired me to chase after what like I really wanted to do. Cause I was always drawing and painting and stuff, but I just never thought I would be able to take it seriously. So that was during the pandemic, like June 2020.
I read in your bio that moving to Ohio kind of gave you that space to begin also creating art and really like, I read it said that you had said that it was like you had feelings about growing up in Compton, but moving to Ohio gave you that space. So did you already have that in mind of like kind of maybe pursuing art when you were living in Ohio?
I did have it in mind because I did a career center out there that focused on like a career in fine arts. But I let like, how like sometimes people can like dissuade you, especially in Ohio. That's like something where it's like, why are you trying to draw pictures for a living? So yeah, I always had that idea, and I know my art teachers always pushed for me to do it, but I was always like insecure about it because I was afraid of like the outside perception of what I was doing.
So your aunt gave you that kind of that confidence to really pursue it?
Yeah, yeah. I felt like because she's also like an aunt that's like real critical and stuff. So the fact that she was like, "Yeah, you should do this for a living," I was like, "What?" So yeah, that like really made me feel like, okay, maybe I could do something, make something of myself with this.
Something that I also notice a lot about many of your pieces is that music is present in many of your paintings. I know that you have
Hmm.
a portrait of SZA and Kid Cudi, but you've also referenced like Tupac in one of your pieces and Erica Badu. So I want to ask you,
Hmm.
how important is music to your creative process?
I feel like it's very important. A lot of my pieces, I can say that I always get like the initial thought when I'm listening to music. I especially like lyrical music. Like I know some people like they may listen to it for the vibe or for the beat, but like I like music that like has a lot of imagery in the words and talks about a lot. So a lot of the times, like when I'm listening to people, it's always someone that's like real lyrical, like Tupac or like Kendrick or SZA or Kid Cudi or something like that, because I can really feel what they're saying. So yeah, for me, I get a lot of my inspiration from experience and then also from musical lyrics.
I was also going through your Instagram, and the last post that you did was
Hmm.
about was the painting about like a mother and daughter relationship.
Hmm.
Um, so I did want to ask you about that because you said like working on that was very personal, it was eye opening,
Hmm.
and it was very therapeutic. So I wanted to
Hmm.
ask you if you could tell us a little bit more how art has been healing for you, especially because you also mentioned that like mental health is also a large
Hmm.
theme in many of your pieces.
Yeah. Well, like in a general space, I'm gonna try and make this as like cohesive as possible. But generally speaking, like for me, I didn't start creating like things emotional wise up until I was probably like 15. Cause at first I would always just only draw portraits of like people I knew or like celebrities or stuff like that. But when I was 15, like when I had just turned 15, I saw the movie Frida and then I just got like hyper fixated on her. And then as time went on, during like a few months later, my best friend, he drowned and he passed away. And so I have a piece and it's like I'm crying and I'm like sewing my chest back together and he's the sun. And for me making that piece, it took me from like 15 to 16 to like actually finish it. But making that piece was like very much my therapy because my parents couldn't afford to give me therapy. They tried to talk to me and all this other stuff, but it was just like it wasn't therapy. So for me, being able to reflect deeply on those emotions of why I was sad and what how that affected me, that helped me want to make art for like a therapeutic purpose and not just like a skill that I practice. So yeah, when it comes to like all my pieces, especially my self portraits, it's always reflecting on the mental state of myself, but also of other people. Because when I first posted it, being like 16 making art like that, it was either like alarming for like adults and stuff because they're just like what's wrong with you, or like but then like people my age who have probably like lost a friend or lost someone, they like understood that feeling without me having to explain it, and that made me feel like that's like I feel like that's like real powerful when you can like talk about a feeling that's like hard to talk about and people like relate to it. So even with the me and my mom piece, I feel like a lot of times, especially in like homes with like people of color, parents, I feel like the relationship is always hard because their parents are always healing from trauma. And then they put you through that trauma. And then you have to figure out how to maneuver through new life experiences and the trauma that your parents are putting you through. So for me, that's kind of what that piece was about. Like just kind of like learning how to turn my pain into something beautiful, which is what I do with my art or how I do when I talk to people.
And I could totally relate to that just because I think one of the main reasons why I started this as well was because
Mhm.
learning how to navigate that and having conversations with others who not necessarily have the same experience as me, um, but have that kind of the same kind of, like you were saying, like learning how to navigate this world
Mhm.
differently, um, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I was also like really, I my attention was really grabbed to one of your pieces was because it said a lot, um,
Mhm.
but it was also very positive, you know it's also very positive and it's also very like uplifting in the way that I look at it because like you were saying, you're bringing this imagination, that isn't all completely true, but it also brings like this imagination of what the future could be. And I think one of the perfect
Mhm.
pieces that I think shows that joy and that positivity is the Pinata, which is a piece
Mhm.
that I also saw that you said it was one of your happiest memories, with that
Mhm.
piece. So I wanted to ask you what inspired you to recreate that moment as well.
Well, for me, I was like really drawn on doing a series of my family because my grandma passed away in late December, like the day before New Year's. So, like the family got together because, like, with my family, like whenever someone passes away, we're with each other for at least a week. And like we either party together or we cry together, but we still grieve together. And so with the pinata, that was like an Easter in like 2017. And that was the last time everybody was alive. Cause I know my cousin, she's in the picture and she's like the girl who's like jumping up and down and she's smiling. And she passed away due to gun violence. So that was like the last time the whole family came together for something that wasn't death. And we were just like real happy. Like everybody was together and it was happy and it was after Easter. And so I was like, like I really wanted to recreate that. I was doing a live painting and I was just like, I don't know what to make. And then I was like going through my pictures and I saw it and like the feeling I got from it, I like literally was just smiling at it for like a real long time because I was like, this was such a fun day. So yeah, I really wanted to create that movement and that happiness. And a lot of people, it also made me happy because a lot of people of color, especially, they'll be like, this looks like my back house or something like that. And like, they would be like, this is like, like this is what we do. So that like made me happy to like see that too.
I did want to ask you as well, because you mentioned that you had moved away from California, you went to Ohio, and now you're back in
Mhm.
California. Has your relationship with California changed since you were growing up until right now at this moment?
Um, I feel like no, because I moved away when I was about 6 or 7, and I would always visit like in the summers and holidays and stuff like that. And I like always felt like an outsider. And I feel like now, well, I think it has changed actually, because I do feel like an outsider, like when I go to events and stuff like that. But with family, I feel like I'm at home. It's kind of like a big contradiction because I feel like, when I'm here, it's like I don't know if I belong here. But then when I'm like at my grandparents' house or at my cousin's house or something like that, it feels like this is where I'm supposed to be. So I do feel like more at home here than I would say in Ohio.
And I'm also glad to hear that you were also able to find the space here to fully pursue art and really have that
Mhm.
support to do it. Um, and I feel you on that just because, as well as honestly, me doing this, it's also kind of
Mhm.
intimidating because, like, I low key, my parents don't, they're like, so what do you do? And I'm just like, I just, like talk to people. so,
Yeah.
so it's also hard to explain, but I think it's
Mhm.
amazing that you're able to have that space to still do it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's like a really big thing. I think that like a lot of sometimes my parents don't understand what I'm doing, but like they'll still like, like they'll come to my stuff, like they support me. Every now and then, like, if like my car is messed up, they'll like give me a ride, like stuff like that. And I feel like that's where it counts. They don't understand it fully, but it's like, will they ever? I don't know. They come from a different time, but or do they like ever like try to deter you, or are they still just kind of like they're understanding but they don't understand?
You know what? They don't understand. And I recently saw who did I saw an interview from someone, but they were like, I didn't fully explain to my parents what I was doing because I didn't want them to deter me from like
Mm,
from that, you know what I mean? So I
hmm.
don't want them to fully understand that because you
Right.
don't want them to because you're I feel like sometimes I'm like, you know what, like I'm okay with them not knowing that or with not fully
Hmm.
understanding just because I don't want them to bring that type of energy or
Yeah,
whatever.
that type of energy to what you're doing. Yeah, I
Mm.
definitely understand that.
Yeah, which is I think which is why I'm okay with it for the
Hmm.
time being, but I do hope that one day I am able to show that and to be like, look, this is what I be. And a lot of the times I think like also with your art is like a lot of it is inspired from that connection with them and those
Hmm.
relationships and those memories growing up with them. Like one of the main reasons why I started this was because I grew up my uncles were DJs. They're sonideros is what they're called.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, so they used to go around LA and have like this whole DJ setup, and a lot of it
Hmm.
was it was like building something new, especially from people from Mexico, from a different country, And
Hmm.
I think I'm trying to do something similar to that, where I'm trying to build a space for people to come together just in a different way. And
That's beautiful.
yeah, and I see that as well with your art, like although
Hmm.
like you mentioned like these complicated relationships, I see that you're also trying to build something new with your art, and turning
Hmm.
those situations into something that's healing, which
Hmm.
is why I also really enjoy your art.
Thank
Um,
you. I appreciate that.
is there a location, a place where you one day hope to see your art?
Yeah, like, like I'm very much, I don't know, I'm trying to be like, I want to say I'm kind of like anti-classist in a way, but I'm not gonna lie, I would love to see my stuff in like the Met or something like that. Like just something big, selling it for like hella money. Like I would love that. I don't know if that's low vibrational, but I would love that. I'm not gonna lie.
No, hell no, no, no. Like, yeah,
I'm not above it.
yeah,
I'm not
no,
above it at
that's
all.
real. No, that's real. That's real. That's awesome. Has your art been able to bring you different experiences that you don't think you would have had if it wasn't for it?
Like different experiences, like how?
I guess I spoke to someone last week, and they said that their art has able to take them to different countries and different places. So that's one
Okay.
example. Um, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else that may come to mind because of it, or.
Yeah. I would say for me, I feel like I've been like physically like in the same place since I've been pursuing art. Um, I would say that I would not have been outside this much, socializing this much if it wasn't for my art because I'm very much a hermit, very much introverted. But I can say that with my art, I've learned a lot about self and then a lot about the necessity of community. And so I feel like if I wasn't creating, I wouldn't have like these aspirations to like help people of color and to like really have the tools to like know how to help them. And I feel like that's like a big thing with me because I'm from Compton and because a few of my family members have been in and out of jail and I see how like that affects kids and I see how it affected me. So I feel like with art, it's taking me somewhere mentally and emotionally. Physically, I would love for it to take me to Italy, but we'll see.
And I do hope that
Okay.
one day your art gets into the Med and it takes you to Italy and anywhere you want to go. Thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you for
time.
having me.